Tim Kawakami had an interesting nugget today. He said, I'm kind of hearing, I don't know how you kind of hear anything, but he said, I'm kind of hearing that this really is a go for broke season. There's a lot on the line. They're paying a lot to the coaching staff. Okay, so let's say they're paying a little bit. They're paying top flight dollars to Saleh, and then maybe Saleh said, "Go get Gus Bradley." So now they're paying him pretty good money. So, maybe they are paying a little bit more to their coaching staff. I don't know why that's a big deal because there is no cap on that. But so the ownership is offering a little bit more money or paying a little bit more money to the coaching staff. But this idea, I mean, I guess this would be my first question: should the Niners should they be in a go for broke season? Now, I know that that's what he's saying. He's hearing that they're really in a go for broke season, but they've been talking about running it back for years. I'm looking at the ESPN Power Rankings, the first ones out after the draft. The 49ers are listed 13th in the Power Rankings. Kansas City, Buffalo, Detroit, 1, 2, 3. Then you've got Philly, Baltimore, Washington, Green Bay, Chargers, Bengals, Vikings, Texans, Rams, then the Niners at 13. So, the Niners just brought in a new defensive coordinator, a new offensive coordinator, a new special teams coordinator. They're trying to sign their quarterback. They need huge injections of talent on both the O-line and D-line. And they've got a bunch of other needs besides that. Should they I know the fans, I know this is year 9 coming up of the regime, so maybe in Jed's mind, he's getting impatient with Lynch and Shanahan, and I know the fans are to some degree, but shouldn't your timeline be based in reality and not just on some outside pressure? Are the 49ers, I mean, people are talking about Myles Garrett, T. Higgins, big name guys. Are the 49ers in position to make that kind of a move? Because I don't think they are. I really don't. I see a defensive line that stinks. You have Bosa and not much else. At linebacker, you have Fred and not much else. You got a good young secondary, but you still got some holes back there. You're horrible on special teams. You're down 2 or 3 offensive linemen that you need on your offensive line. You probably need another running back. You probably need at least 2 tight ends. You're not very good at tight end. And now you're going to go forward next year with no Debo. Ayuk's not going to play until maybe Thanksgiving. And you really think you're going to roll Ricky Pearsall, JJ, and Cowing out there, and you're going to be some world beater? I think they're delusional if they think that they're one player away. And I know it's sexy to say, oh, Myles Garrett. And I know lots of Niner fans would love to we'd all celebrate Myles Garrett, and the casual fan would be all over it. But guess what? The casual fan loved Javon Hargrave. The casual fan said, oh, yeah, Javon Hargrave. How is any offensive line going to block a defensive line that has Nick Bosa and Javon Hargrave? Except Javon Hargrave sucked. And the 49ers didn't get a single sack in like the last 6 weeks of the regular season. I'm just saying, it's like, I get it. I understand why people want Myles Garrett, and I understand why they would want a great receiver or a great individual player. But not everybody is positioned at all times to go after one guy in a sport like football. Like the Eagles, it's like, well, the Eagles did this and this and this, and they got right. Yeah, but the Eagles had Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter and Josh Sweat and 3 or 4 young defensive linemen that were kind of coming into their own. The Niners don't have that. The Niners have like stopgap guys and then Bosa. I guess my point is I love Myles Garrett, and obviously he's great. But are the Niners really? I mean, they went all in on one guy for Trey, and that didn't go well. Then on the tail end of that, they went all in for Hargrave and depleted a lot of their depth. I don't think that went all that great. And now they're going to go all in for Myles Garrett. And what if he gets hurt? The whole season's just cooked. I don't know, man. I I know it's sexier to say Myles Garrett than it is to say Aeneas Peebles from Vatek and, Savion Jones from LSU and, JJ Pegues from Ole Miss and, Tonka Hemingway from South Carolina. I realize a lot more people know Myles Garrett than know those guys. But I don't know, man. I don't think the 49ers are one player away. And it scares the hell out of me when I see Kawakami saying that the people around the Niners that he talks to say that the Niners are in a go for broke position this season.
That's not breaking news. By the way, that's not breaking news. They 100% are. That's not it. They're in a Super Bowl window. I mean, that's what they believe. I know that for a 100% fact. That's not speculation. He's not breaking any news.
No, I know, but I mean, is that accurate? Is that an accurate assessment of where
it's
they're
what
at?
They believe. I mean, to me, it's what they believe, and it's not a democracy because if you look at what they're going to do, they're going to re-sign Brock. The way I see it is, offensively, they're going to score points. They need to be better, like you and I have said, at center and guard. But there's a way to do that, and they can do that. They're gonna extend, and they're gonna sign Kittle. They're gonna hope that they don't have the crazy season that they had in the injuries. And as far as receiver, they're not going after T. Higgins, man. They're not doing that. They're gonna undo a mistake that they made with Ayuk last year and giving him all that money. They're not gonna turn around and make another one. They're not gonna put that kind of money at the position. Pearsall was drafted in the first round. He has to come through, or they're sunk, like you said. Juwan Jennings, they signed to an extension. They like him a lot. He's a favorite of Kyle. We think Debo's a favorite. My God, him blocking guys into the bench, he loves them. And then Ayuk is going to come back late. You're right. They might need a stopgap type. Like Amari Cooper's a free agent. He sucked in Buffalo. I wouldn't be surprised if he was a 1-year rental here until Ayuk comes back. But offensively, they're going to score. To me, the whole reason they bring in Saleh, and it doesn't mean that because, as you said accurately, because like Vic Fangio goes to the Eagles and everything's because Saleh's coming, they're going to automatically be great. Well, they're either going to get Myles Garrett, who, by the way, I think is much more of a safe bet. The first round in the NFL draft is 50-50 to a second-year contract. That doesn't mean Pro Bowl or All-Star or anything. It's 50-50 to even a second contract. Myles Garrett is 100% good. So to me, that's a less of a risk, and he's 30 years old. He's got plenty of time left on the clock. It's whether Fred Warner, and then I think that they should go, like I said, the Sherwood kid with the Jets I like better than Dre. It's whether the secondary is going to be any good because they're going to score points. They're going to have the last place schedule. They're going to win 10, 11, 12 games. And I'm not saying that they could be Philly from a year from now because you just accurately nailed it. It's the young players and it's the players in their prime that Philadelphia has. And then they added Vic Fangio and added Kellen Moore. They did a lot of great things. But I think for people who are saying that Christian McCaffrey is done, Christian McCaffrey is not done. They have enough offensive weapons. But I get what you're saying. I just think that they're in go-get-it mode because they're going to give Brock money. They're going to extend guys. They're going to be smart. They're going to have a last-place schedule. Does that mean they're going to go far in the playoffs? What I'm saying is they're going to be a playoff team based on their schedule. But are the 49ers, to your point, are they with Detroit? No. Are they with Philly? No. Are they on par with the Rams? The Rams want to get rid of Matthew Stafford. Then the Niners are better than the Rams. But the teams that are at the upper, the teams that are going up because of their young talent in Detroit, in Philly, in Green Bay, Minnesota is going to be interesting because Minnesota is going to take a massive chance and say that J.J. McCarthy is as good as what Sam Darnold was this year, and I'll bet you he's not. So we'll see what happens. But they're not upper echelon, I'll say that. They are not Philly. They are not Detroit. They are not Green Bay. I don't know if they're Minnesota, but then they're that next level down. And they're going to go for it. All due respect to Tim, that's not breaking news because the alternative is what? That they just gave Brandon Ayuk 30 and they're going to extend Brock and they're going to give Kittle money and they're going to go, they're going to keep building this thing. They're going to keep taking shots at this thing until the wheels fall off of it. They're not where the Warriors are. I mean, Jimmy Butler paraded to the free throw line a bunch tonight, which was really, really cool. But I mean, the Warriors are in desperation mode. I don't think that's where the Niners are. Do you?
Well, I mean, I'll say this. What do you think the price tag is going to be for Myles Garrett? Because I think
he's going to need an extension too, right?
Probably going to be. Yeah. Well, it's very cap friendly the first year. He's going to have a $6.5 million hit the first year. But I mean, realistically, you're probably going to have to trade 2 first-round picks to get him. And
I don't think you're going to have to do that.
I don't think so.
The only reason I don't think that is he's already asked for the trade, so they've already lost their leverage. And the other teams that are going to want Myles Garrett, and he's going to want because he says he wants to go to a winner. So I haven't seen what the odds are, but let's just use some logic here. Detroit needs somebody opposite Hutchinson. They've got a late pick. The Commanders are a playoff team. They traded both Chase Young, as we all know too well, and Sweat to the Bears. So they need somebody. Their number one guy had about 10.5 sacks last year, but he's a free agent. So they are desperate. The Commanders need it. The Detroit needs it. He's not going to go to Green Bay. He's not going to go to Dallas because they can't win, even though he's from Arlington. And the Browns would probably want to trade him to the NFC. The Bills could use the help, something like that. I mean, it could be a situation with the Chiefs, kind of like with Durant coming to the Warriors, where it's like, oh, we lost the championship. Had they won it, he wouldn't go there. I could see now Myles Garrett going, yeah, I'll go to the Chiefs and team up with Chris Jones. So, I think there's a lot of teams, but all the teams I just mentioned who would need him, who are going to win, their pick is near the end of the first round. And I don't know that the Niners would give this up, but I certainly would. If the Niners say to the Browns, we'll give you 11. I mean, if you're the Browns, I don't know how you turn that down. Like, they could turn around and say, we want a 3. And if I'm the Niners, I'm going, then take Detroit's 29th pick or take Kansas City's 31st pick. Go ahead. But we'll give you 11. And that's as good as they're going to get. You're even for really good players nowadays, you're not getting top 10 picks unless you're talking about an elite player.
It's just an awful lot to give away, man, because you're talking about a guy who's already played 8 full years in the NFL.
But if you're in the mode the Niners are, and they're in the mode to win the championship right now. Now, whether they can or not, highly debatable. There's no question. But they think they are. And Nick Bosa's been screaming for somebody across from him and outside of D Ford who couldn't stay healthy. Who's the guy opposite him? Leonard Floyd was decent this year, but Leonard Floyd really, if you had Myles Garrett, what you would do is you'd put Garrett as one side, Bosa as the other, and then Floyd would come down in on third down, and Garrett would kick inside for third down, and you'd have a ridiculous turbo package, and you could get there with 4s. And what we are as a sports society is we are sheep. So however a team wins, we want to do that. So every team in the league is going to go, we got to get there with 4. We got to give it 4. And everybody knows that, but everybody's going to shore their defensive line now this offseason. They're going to try to find that, that 4 that can get them Mahomes without having to blitz. That's going to be the big hot thing now. And so Myles Garrett, he's going to cost you a lot, but I don't think he's going to cost you more than 11. And the thing I love the draft. Me and you are dorks for the draft. You're much smarter than me when it comes to the draft. But if I'm the Niners and I'm in a window, and I think I am I going to go 50-50 that one of these guys not named Abdul Carter is going to fall to me? Because I like Walter Nolan and I like all the guys you mentioned inside, and I like some of these guys like Mikael Williams. I like James Pierce, the kid out of Tennessee. Like, I like these guys, and some of these guys are going to hit, and some of these guys aren't. But if you're in a window, Myles Garrett is 100% going to hit. It's just a matter of you got to pay him a lot of money. And you got to give up number 11. And that's going to be the big question, because no one else in the league who can win is going to have as high of a pick as the 49ers will have to give to the Browns.
I think they're delusional. That's not the team that I saw this year. They won 6 games. Okay. They beat nobody good all year. They weren't good. The quarterback's decent. The running backs got major Achilles problems. The fullback's old. The tight end's old. They have no backup at either spot. They're not winning the Super Bowl with Ricky Pearsall and Jawan Jennings. I mean, this just in. That would be the worst wide receiver tandem in the history of football to ever win the Super Bowl. If somehow the Niners won the Super Bowl with Ricky Pearsall and Jawan Jennings. I mean, look at the teams that have won the Super Bowl. They've had much, much better receivers than that. That's their offensive line. They don't have a right tackle, a center, or a left guard, and there's only 5 spots on the offensive line. And that's just on offense. And in reality, their defense couldn't stop anybody. They're not good at tackle. They're not really good opposite Bosa. Greenlaw's old, and they just don't look very good. They don't have good linebackers. They don't have a starting free safety. They don't have any speed at corner. I mean, they're totally and utterly delusional if they think that they're going to plug in one great player at any position. I don't care if you got a great quarterback. They're more than one player away. And if they don't see that, then that's on them. And it's going to be a very painful lesson, and it's going to cost them their jobs. So we'll see what direction they go. But this delusion of, hey, we're just one guy away is you're not one guy away. You're going to get that guy. You're going to dial up pressure on yourself, and then you're going to fail, and then you're going to get fired. So I'm all for making good decisions, but I'm not. There's a right time and a wrong time to go all in on one guy. And when you've already gone all in on two different guys and come up, craps both times, this is not the time to then go do it a third time, because you have no depth. You have no, even if Myles Garrett's awesome, so what? I mean, you play your defensive lineman in a rotation. The guys coming off the bench can't play dead, and you're not good in any phase of the game. You're not good on special teams. You're not good on offense. I don't know. I think it's totally totally delusional if they think that they're a Myles Garrett from beating the Philadelphia Eagles. Really, they have been drafting, really, really well for a number of years. You basically struck out on 21, 22, and 23 drafts back to back to back, and you have one good draft in 24. What you really need this year is you need your 1986 draft. You don't need Jerry Rice. You need 7 starters. If the Niners got 7 starters, they have 7 positions that they could easily go with new starters. So I hope they don't do that. I hope they don't do that. And then the other one, it's not Myles Garrett's not the only guy out there. It's not just Myles Garrett. There's a lot of talk today that the Raiders may trade Max Crosby. There's a lot of talk today that the Bengals may wind up saying goodbye to Trey Hendrickson. Those guys are both names to monitor. Jeremy Fowler says Crosby and Hendrickson.
Well, Crosby will cost you a ton more than what Myles Garrett will, and if I'm the Raiders, he's untouchable.
The Raiders would
get in the league.
Trade him to the Niners.
They won't trade him to the Niners, and then Hendrickson is vastly underrated. But they've got to get somebody outside of Bosa. I'm not as down on him because I think the schedule's easy. I think that the injuries that happen and the weirdness will not happen. The football gods just don't do that to you 2 years in a row. They will score points, and they're going to address the interior of the offensive line in free agency, and they have enough money. It's defense to me, and that's where Myles Garrett comes in, is because if Myles Garrett and Nick Bosa are on the field at the same time and you have general health, you're going to get there with 4 no matter who's inside. Warner's still good. I think they need to go Sherwood instead of Dre Greenlaw, unfortunately. And then, like you said, the thing that does scare me is I like Renardo Green fine, Demo's fine. The safeties scare the hell out of me because I didn't see it from Jair Brown last year. And Malik Mustafa he's a missile, and I love the guy, but he's undisciplined and can give up plays. Hafunga's not coming back. He's going to be far too expensive. Obviously, Ward's not coming back. His wife has PTSD and is never going to come back to California because of the thing that happened off the field. So, I agree with you. There is a lot of work to be done. They've got to get general health. They're getting older. I don't think there's any question about it, but I think they're a playoff team with general health just because they have such an easy schedule. And then it's going to come from there. Are you a team that's going to lose in the wild card round? Potentially. But I also know that this team was in the Super Bowl a year ago, absolutely got devastated by injuries, by Ayuk's situation, by Williams' situation. I'm not saying they're up with the Lions because they're not. They're not up with the Lions. They're not up with the Eagles. They're not up with the Packers. But then that next level of team, if Minnesota's going with J.J. McCarthy, I don't think Minnesota's going to be what they were a year ago. If the Rams are talking about getting rid of Matthew Stafford, I don't care how old Stafford is, man. He's a gamer, and he wins games at the end. And they've got a great young team. There's no doubt about it. But who's your quarterback? Jimmy Garoppolo? I mean, that's Aaron Rodgers is going to go to the Rams and do something. So, a lot can happen in a year because I think we left Philly for dead a year ago, and they made a bunch of shrewd moves. But I'll go to your point, which is 100% accurate. Howie Roseman had been stacking that team forever. And it was just they needed a lot of direction, and they got that direction. So, look, I'm not under the illusion that the 49ers are the team they were when we were automatically putting them in the Super Bowl. But I also think that if their direction is they think they can still go for it, I think that's okay. They're not in a rebuild. They're not a middle-of-the-pack team, especially with this schedule. They don't play anybody next year, and that could
it's an easy schedule. It's an easy schedule for sure. But they didn't beat anybody this year. And the best team they beat all year were the Buccaneers, who rolled in with no Chris Godwin and no Mike Evans, and the Niners beat that Buccaneers team at home. That was the best win of the year. The rest of the year, they didn't really beat anybody. They beat Dallas. They beat New England. I mean, they beat some real dog meat teams, but I mean, they got worked in their division.